Hello, hypothetical audience. I'm Jijin Was Ghost, and welcome to Hazy Cosmic Jive. Today is Friday, March 11th, 2022. It is a crisp winter day with fresh snow on the ground, and was an absolute shit show of an afternoon. Man, I was trying to get my passport renewed, but my handwriting is really bad. I was talking to my parents, like, hey, I want an extra set of eyes before I send this in. Do you think this looks fine? No, we can barely read this. You just gotta reprint it. All that time you spent yesterday getting this ready. Nope, we gotta do it again. And I wanted to record some audio earlier. I wanted to record this earlier, but my computer decided to be stupid. So for some reason, the settings on my microphone were muted, and I have no idea why. That wasn't something I did manually. I've recorded several things in the past with no issue. I was stuck. I wouldn't know what the problem was with my computer, with the mic, with the cord. I had my friend come over to help. He was here for probably like 30, 40 minutes just trying to figure out what to do, but he was able to get it figured out. I am so happy he was able to help. And so we are here recording episode 1. Now, this is the part in what I would like to do with the show is for this first part to kind of give some life updates. Like, this is what I've been up to for the past week or 2 weeks, however long it is between episodes. Not 100% sure yet if I want this to be like weekly, bi-weekly. I don't think monthly. I think that's a bit too long. Or it's more just the fact that I feel like I could probably get stuff done quicker than just waiting a whole month. But this is episode 1. So the way I see it, life updates kind of don't mean anything if you don't know the life at the center of them. Which maybe out loud sounds a bit more narcissistic than I meant it to. But all I really mean is I just want to introduce you, hypothetical audience, to the not-so-hypothetical host. My name is Joshua Jabulani Undutugo Whitley. JJNW'S is my initials, JJNW. The Ghost moniker is a good few years ago. I was at a friend's Halloween party, and I was hanging out with just one of the other guys. We're both, like, sitting in the room, like, just, like, talking about stuff. I was like, hey, you want to know what I am for Halloween? I'm Jijin Was Ghost. And he just goes, JJNW'S Ghost? And, like, that was how he said it. I'm like, yeah, I'm Jijin Was Ghost. JJNW'S Ghost? Because I remember he specifically said it twice. And ever since then, for whatever reason, that nickname is stuck. So, like, when I am online, like, when I was playing Overwatch, it was Jijin Was Ghost. When I'm on Twitter, on Instagram, it's Jijin Was Ghost. It is just stuck. And you know what? I kind of dig it. There's a part of me that's like, I could maybe twist this into making it something that almost sounds kind of deep, like I'm a ghost because I'm stuck in a situation and I can't get forward, like I'm unable to pass on, or like, but like a part of me is dead inside, or like a man I used to be died long ago, so I'm a ghost now. But no, that's not it. It is not deep at all. It was just some dumb shit I said as an offhand joke that has followed me ever since, haunted me ever since, if you will. But I can't even say haunted because that makes it sound like it's a bad thing, and it's not. I just kind of think it's funny, and so here we are. It was Ghost. So, I have lived in a lot of different places. I grew up as a military brat. So, I have lived in, born in North Carolina. Then we moved to California. I lived in I was born in Tarboro. Moved to 29 Palms. Lived in Okinawa for about 3 years. That when I was about 5, going on 6, I believe. So, Okinawa for 3 years. San Diego for 3 years. Like, we lived in a suburb of San Diego. I don't remember what it was called, but it wasn't in the city itself, but basically lived in the city. So about 3 years, then back to Okinawa for another 3 years. Excuse me. Australia for a year and a half. Western Australia, to be specific. It was a suburb outside of Perth. Then Oklahoma from 2010, like the very end of 2009 until present. Although I did live in Malibu for 3 years while going to law school. So those are all the different places I have lived. I did go, like I said, I went to law school. I passed the California bar. I am a licensed attorney. But this is not going to be a law podcast. And this is not like a legal thing. Like, no disrespect to that. I think legal is like really cool. Love that shit. But this is not going to be about fiction and how the law can apply. Although, like, if I talk about Phoenix Wright at any point, I'll probably be like, oh yeah, this is why Phoenix Wright is the dumbest thing of all time and why I love it anyways. But no, like, my passion, like, my one true love has been writing stories. Ever since I was in 4th grade, we had this, like, 4th grade journal time. It's like, yeah, just write stuff. You know, you can write about your day. You can write about, you know, things you'd like to do. You could write stories. And I started writing stories since 4th grade, and I thought it was the most fun thing ever. So, I am someone that loves a good story. And it doesn't just have to be something I've written. I love watching anime. I love watching movies. I love reading books. I love writing books. I love playing video games. I love being immersed in a work of fiction and seeing what it has to offer me. And, you know, sometimes it has to offer me a lot. I can say, oh my goodness, I have learned a lot from this. Here's some really good things to do. You know, like when you're building a world, when you're trying to, like if you're trying to tell a mystery, these are ways you can really develop a character. Or, you know, this is a character that didn't have a lot of development, but they were a really good character anyway, and this is what stuck out. But sometimes it's the opposite. If I'm, like, reading or watching, playing something, and it doesn't click, I'm also really curious to know, like, what is it that didn't make this click with me? Was it really dramatic and it didn't work and I honestly found the drama to be kind of funny? Was it because I didn't like the characters? And if so, what was it that I didn't like? So I can tell myself that. Don't do that in your own writing. I love that kind of stuff. Now, sometime last year, what I had attempted to do was start a YouTube channel, also called Hazy Cosmic Jive, where I would essentially do what I want to do here. Sorry, my brain just turned off for a second, so I'm going to try rewinding that for a second. I tried to do a YouTube channel, and it didn't work. So the reasons, in my opinion, why it didn't work: one, when I was just trying to record with, like, me in front of a camera, the quality wasn't very good. I had a microphone with the camera, but it wasn't super high quality, so the audio kind of sucked. There's also the fact that I realize I'm kind of camera shy. I don't know what it is, but, like, when I'm sitting here with just, when I'm sitting here with just a microphone and my computer in front of me with, like, my script or my notes, I can go. I can just talk and not shut up. Clearly, I'm doing this all in, like, one take. And I can ramble like nobody's business. So please, bear with me if and when I start to ramble incoherently about stuff. But I did notice that when I had a computer in front of me, or excuse me, not the computer, when I had a camera in front of me, I would take a lot more pauses. I would just feel really awkward. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, it didn't quite work. So then what I thought about doing was, well, what if I just do the audio and then I could add video in later? You know, I could add maybe music or like clips of whatever I'm talking about, which sounded like a great idea. The problem is I am so technologically illiterate that I have absolutely no idea how to do any of that. Well, I mean, I know how to, I know how to record the audio. I figured out how to edit audio. But when it comes to actually finding or obtaining clips, don't really know how to do that. I had a friend who, same friend that helped me today, by the way, shout out to Church, love the man. But he was going to be helping me with some of that, but then he ended up getting a job. And because he had a job, he didn't really have the time to help me with the videos anymore. So I was like, okay, videos are just kind of out because I really don't know what I'm doing. But I was still writing scripts. I was still recording them. So I know I still had quite a bit of audio. I was like, what do I do with this? Wait a second. Podcasts. Podcasts are audio. Now, I mean, I feel like some of them, they might have some visual components. But I feel like if my thing is, I'm just going to sit in my chair at my computer and talk about, I don't know, the new Pokemon game coming out, while clips would be helpful, I think the audio would probably be just fine. So that is what I decided to do, is to take a lot of my unused audio, and, I will write stuff down the road later as well, and this is how I will present it. Now, if I do find clips that I can use, I will put them into an episode, but it's not something I feel like I'll be doing frequently, at least not in the beginning. Maybe down the road when I've gotten a bit more experience, or I find someone who's able to help me with that, then for sure. But for now, I would say a solid 95% conservatively is going to be pure audio. So if you don't like the sound of my voice and find it really annoying, I'm sorry. This is not going to be the show for you, because it's just going to be my stupid voice not shutting up. Oh, but like I was saying, I do have... Oh, excuse me. Quick drink of water. Oh, that actually kind of hurt. I drank that just a little too aggressively. But like I was saying, I have audio that I've recorded and some other scripts that I want to write. So what I would like to do is kind of share them as opinion pieces. I would say on average, they're probably about 20 minutes or so in length. So what I'm thinking is, first part of the show, introduction. Or, like the introduction, like today is blah, 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 blah. Here's kind of the basic life updates. Then we go into an opinion piece. Then I come back, talk about stuff for a bit, and we'll kind of explain what that's like when we get to that later. But talk about stuff for a bit, then do another opinion piece, come back, do a conclusion, and end the show. I'm thinking, though, if I have an opinion piece that's particularly long, like I've noticed my video game reviews tend to be kind of lengthy. Instead, I might just do one opinion piece, but we'll figure it out. We'll I like how I just said the same thing like twice and then tried to say it a third time, but we'll figure it out. I feel like if there's any time to start changing a formula, it is when you start, because at this point I don't have an audience, but I also don't really have anything set in stone. So if I'm going to experiment and figure out how I want to do things, it's best to do it now, do it early, and then once I've got it figured out, smooth sailing. At least, theoretically, that would be dope. But so for today, we will have two opinion pieces. The first, which I'll segue to here in just a little bit, is gonna be about my rewatch of Serial Experiments Lane and my impressions for the first few episodes. For today's Jive, I wanted to go back to 1998 and talk about a show called Serial Experiments Lane. Now, I don't remember when I was first introduced to Lane. I'd estimate probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I was aware of its reputation as a cyberpunk anime with various different, gosh, I sound like Charles Barkley, with various different interpretations as to both its themes and its overall plot. I was mostly interested in it because it had the same head writer as Digimon Tamers. Now, a far cry from Digimon Adventure, Tamers starts innocent enough, with an uncomfortable moment here or there before devolving into a full-on horror show for its final arc. I remember loving that as a kid, and I did rewatch it. I believe it was last year, the year before, with Clay, and it still holds up really well. Now, I watched Lane when I was first aware of it, and it didn't do much for me. I do remember feeling uncomfortable when I would walk near a power line and, I would hear that telltale hum. But that's one of the only things I took from the show, aside from Let's All Love Lane and the opening, which is a certified banger. But a couple weeks ago, a few friends of mine started watching Lane, and their conversations and enthusiasm for it convinced me to give it a rewatch. And, of course, I wanted to talk about my experience. So what I decided to do is take notes for every episode while I'm watching them about what sticks out to me. And then I want to make a short video just about each individual episode and my experience with it. I want to go over things like, the basic plot, if there's any particular shots that really stood out to me, and what are the major themes that I'm picking up on from each individual episode, and how they contribute to the larger themes of the whole narrative. So, without further ado, let's log in to Serial Experiments Lane. Layer 01, Weird. What stuck out the most from this episode is the show's use of the color white. There's a gorgeous shot where we see nothing but white until Lane opens a door. She emerges from this white mass, and then as soon as she closes the door, all traces of it completely disappear. She walks down the street, and there's these black and red, kind of globs and shapes. Some of it is on the side, some of it is in her shadow. That almost looks like it's some form of corruption or virus that's spreading. And all the while, the power lines around her just have this ominous hum. All I could think of when I was watching that moment is how much I would love a poster of that shot, of Lane coming out of the door, or Lane just closing the door. It's just how beautiful it looked. And I think white is a really great color when it's being used to show emptiness or loneliness. One of the best examples I can think of is there's an episode of SpongeBob when it's the one where Squidward gets a time machine. So he goes to the future and so he doesn't get the time machine first. He freezes himself, ends up in the future, then gets a time machine to try to get back home, but he goes too far, ends up with a bunch of cavemen like SpongeBob and Patrick. He breaks the time machine. Then he ends up in this endless white space. And what initially he sees as, very relaxing, he can finally be alone with his thoughts, it quickly turns into horror when he realizes just how alone he is here. And I feel like loneliness is one of the big themes I can already start to see forming in Lane. The internet, the wired, is what connects the whole world. But reality itself is still a lonely place if you choose to ignore the people around you, or, you lack access to the wired. This one shot, at least to me, got all of that across in just a few seconds without a single line of dialogue. The plot in this episode is that a girl in Lane's class committed suicide, but her classmates are still getting emails from the dead girl. Lane gets one as well, and that girl talks about the wired and how great it is, that even though she died, it's kind of like she found got a new lease on life inside there. Now, it's clear that the wired isn't just the afterlife, because we do see regular, clearly still living people accessing it. But the show does go out of its way to make it feel like it's this completely other world, but not a parallel world, because these two are just intrinsically connected. There's a point when Lane is in class, and she's just looking at the chalkboard, but then she sees this message in her teacher's notes, something kind of like something out of the Matrix, that's just telling her to come to the wired. And then she ends up speaking to her dad to see if she can get an upgraded computer, and her dad agrees. I love that her dad is introduced by sitting behind just 6 monitors while he's talking to Lane, because it does make it, it makes a literal wall between them. And as someone who lived through the 2010s and first couple years of the 2020s, I've heard all the jokes and the monologues decrying how people, particularly like millennials and Zoomers, spend too much time on screens and not enough time having real face-to-face conversations or interactions with people. So to see that playing out in a show written all the way back in 1998 is both impressive and also just kind of unsettling. Like, it ever so slightly feels like I'm living in someone else's idea of a dystopian future. And so, while overall I did enjoy the first episode, I will say it is very much a slow burn, and there are some moments that feel like they're just weird for the sake of being weird. For example, there's a scene where Lane is sitting in class and then she stares at her hand, and then her fingers just start leaking mist. I don't know why that's there. I don't know what that contributed to the plot or the themes of the show. But overall, the striking visuals and the strong thematic foundations from this episode did get me excited for the rest of my rewatch. And as one final note, Lane also has this hoodie that's just her in a bear costume, and it's actually really precious. I'm recording this after I've watched and written down kind of my notes on the first 6 episodes, and we really don't see much of the bear hoodie beyond this one, and I kind of wish we did. But it also makes a lot of sense that we don't, so I can't really be that upset about it. But overall, enjoyed the first episode, and we'll see where it goes from here. Layer 02, Girls. This episode starts with a man at a club purchasing and taking a drug. The drug seems like it's supposed to make someone super hyper-aware and is also very addictive. The man spots a young woman at a club that has a striking resemblance to Lane, except she seems much more confident and assertive. Later, a few girls from Lane's class, including her good friend Alice, talk about seeing a woman at the club that looked a lot like her and invite her to go clubbing with them. Lane has no memory of being at the club and is very hesitant about going out. She also starts seeing this man in black lurking in the shadows of her school and her neighborhood. She arrives home from school and learns that her dad did end up buying her a computer and got her a really top-of-the-line one. And, she talks to him about having him help her assemble it. He's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it after dinner. And then she kind of forcibly brings it up right after again. Like, yeah, we'll do it after dinner. Hey, can you help me set it up? And then he does. So then Lane and her friends end up going to the club. The drug user from the beginning is there and he has a gun. He starts rambling about The Wired, how terrified he is of it. But then he starts freaking out even more when he sees Lane. He demands to know why she's there, why she's making him do this, and talks about how The Wired can't interfere with the real world. And while everyone else in the club is just, running out in terror, Lane is just standing there. Alice had already run out, but when she sees that Lane is still there, she goes back for her. And then Lane's assertive side pops out, and she hits this guy with a truth bomb. No matter where you go, everyone's connected. This is his breaking point, and then he commits suicide, leaving Lane's face stained with his blood. This episode introduces one of the biggest questions I had when I watched Lane the first time. Who is she? Is she this soft-spoken introvert that just kind of wants to go through life and keeping her head down? But The Wired keeps worming its way into her life to the point where she just kind of can't ignore it. Or is all of that a front for someone who's a lot more forceful and aggressive, but hides her true nature since it just kind of makes life easier? It's like, is she both? Like, she starts as the first, but evolves into the second as the series progresses? Or is this like a split personality? And I'm also starting to wonder how much of this is going to turn into a theme about anonymity. We've all read comments on social media, and we understand just how nasty they can be at times, how empowering it can be to say something without fear of repercussions. It's like when I hear people, either in person or again in comments, talk about like LeBron James, and then they'll talk about like, oh yeah, he's not that great, or you get all the memes like La Carried or La Saved by La Legacy Saved by Ray Allen, stuff like that. But people wouldn't say anything like that to his face. I feel like that's what I'm going to be getting out of Lane's character on the second time around. She's far more outspoken when The Wired is involved, due to the amount of power that it gives her, which contrasts with her normally meek and quiet persona when The Wired isn't involved and she's just another average person. I generally don't vibe with this kind of show. I prefer stories that are clearly told, but still have some room to interpret character choices and potential themes, compared to something where the story is more vague in favor of really just expanding on a theme. Watching the first 2 episodes does remind me of why I didn't get into it the first time. But taking my notes and then, really thinking about what I watched and what I'm getting out of it is honestly making me enjoy it a lot more than I expected to. Now, there's still 11 episodes to go, and I may completely change my tune by the time we're all done. But I will say, I am having a lot of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this all goes. And we're back, hypothetical audience. I really hope I didn't sound too stilted during that recording. My Lane recordings are a bit more recent, so I feel like when I was doing those, I felt more comfortable. I hope it sounded more natural, because if I'm sounding really stiff and really robotic, that is definitely going to be a problem. Please be sure to let me know. Now, when it comes to my Lane opinion pieces, I have already rewatched the entire show, and I've scripted and recorded my thoughts on all 13 episodes, plus just kind of one last one last piece going over my thoughts on the whole show. So what I want to do with those is pair them off into groups of 2, so like episode 1 and 2, or I guess layer, because that's what Lane called them. So layers 1 and 2, layers 3 and 4, etc., etc. And since it ends on an odd number with 13, I would just do 11 and 12, and then the last thing would be layer 13 plus this is my final thoughts on Lane. I'm not going to do them all in a row. Like the second opinion piece is not going to be layers 3 and 4. I imagine that would be either the next episode of the podcast, maybe the one after, until they're all done. Well, we'll kind of get it figured out, but I don't want to go all in on Lane. No disrespect to it. Spoiler alert, I really enjoyed my rewatch, but I do have other stuff I would like to talk about as well. And speaking of other things I would like to talk about, so this segment of the podcast, I want to be about current events. That being said, I don't want to take this time to talk about, real world shit. Nothing about the war, nothing political. I just want to talk about fiction. I don't get me wrong, that stuff is important. That stuff is really, really important and should be talked about. It's just not what I feel comfortable talking about. I want to talk about movies. I want to talk about video games. I want to talk about anime. That stuff has its place, but for me, myself personally, I don't feel like that space is right here. So, if I'm not going to be talking about that, what do I mean by current events? For me, that means news on video games, updates on shows that I'm currently watching, and anything about, the new football season. Yes, I know that football is reality and it's not fiction, so that kind of goes against what I was just saying, but in my humble opinion, hypothetical audience, an NFL season is nothing but a really long tournament arc, and it has some of the best storylines you could find in a tournament arc, so of course I'm going to talk about them. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and start talking about the whole QB carousel that's going on right now, because I'm I can't say I'm loving it, but I'm really liking it. And so the reason why is because of Aaron Rodgers. So last season was the whole Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. He's not happy. You know, like they drafted Jordan Love in the first round, despite the fact that they had him and he was balling out that year, which he was. They went to the NFC title game and got rocked by the 49ers. It showed that they need like another receiver to complement Devontae Adams. It showed that they need help stopping the running game. And with their first overall pick that they traded up for, they got a backup quarterback. No receiver to help their current quarterback. No one on the defense. I mean, again, they had other picks in the draft. But your first pick, your cream of the crop that you traded up for, we're going to go ahead and invest in a backup quarterback right now. Rodgers was not happy. And if I'm being honest, I can't blame him for that. Like, if I was in his situation, I'd be like, wait. We're ready to go now, and we have some very clear things that we need to fix so we can go all the way. Why are you trying to get my replacement right now when I'm not the problem? So last year was this whole circus sideshow about, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Okay, so he is staying. They're not trading him, but this is it. This is probably his last season in Green Bay. You know, The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, I think had just aired. So there was a lot of hype about, this is the last dance for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I was like, okay, let's see where it goes. And it ended at the hands of the 49ers. And I think that's his fourth playoff loss to the 49ers. Don't know what it is about them being his kryptonite, but they are consistently his playoff kryptonite. So after that happened, I was like, okay, where is he going? Because after all of that buildup, and, throughout the season, it did seem like his relationship with the team and, like, the management and such was getting better. But come on. I mean, after all of that hype, where is he gonna go? So he's gonna be pulling a Peyton. He's gonna be pulling a Brady. He's gonna go somewhere else where he knows I can compete now because I'm sorry, Green Bay, this just ain't it anymore. It's like, all right, I'm hearing a lot about Denver. Oh man, Denver just hired his offensive coordinator to be their head coach. Man, Denver is going all in on Aaron Rodgers. Ooh, is this what's gonna happen? And no, he's staying in Green Bay. That's boring. I'm sorry. I mean, I feel like the only people happy with this news are Packers fans. And if I was a Packers fan, which I'm not, I am a Saints fan. I will go ahead and let you know my Saints bias will probably bleed through a lot when I'm talking about stuff. But I understand Packers fans being happy. You have the 4-time MVP, back-to-back MVP, saying, I am staying here because we have been so close so many times. I still think we can do it. I'm not running out. I'm not abandoning you. We are going to do this before I retire. That's kind of awesome. But after all of that hype, I wanted to see something different. I wanted to see what would happen if he went somewhere else. Would he do better? Would he do worse? It would really create that narrative of, has he not won another Super Bowl because of the Packers? Or has it been him? And I mean, football is a team sport. It's on everybody. Brady has 7 rings. That is gnarly. That is so impressive. But he did not win 7 rings by himself. He had people blocking for him. He had people catching the balls he threw. He had defenses. I mean, if it's not for Malcolm Butler, he probably doesn't have that was his 4th ring. If the Falcons didn't choke, oh gosh, what a shit show that was. Then he might not have another ring. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to throw shade on Brady, but it is important to know this is a team sport. It is not just all about the quarterback. But I would like to know. It's like, so, Brady went elsewhere, and then he won. Peyton ended up going somewhere else, and then he won. What's going to happen with Rodgers? Well, he's staying, so we're not really going to get that interesting narrative. I'm kind of disappointed. And apparently so were the football gods. Because then, mere hours after it was confirmed that, hey, Rodgers is staying in Green Bay, he's not going anywhere. It's like, oh, well, this is boring. Bam! Breaking news. Russell Wilson is now going to Denver. There we go. Super Bowl winning quarterback. Really, really good. Going somewhere else. Fresh start. What can they do? Now, there is a sports podcast I watch called Strong Opinion Sports, hosted by Zach Schaumler. Big fan of his show. Love watching his content. He has been hyping up the Denver Broncos roster for a long time, or at least the past couple years or so. They have great skill position players. They have a great defense. Really, what they are missing is a quarterback. And you put a good quarterback in there, I feel like this team could really compete. So, I've been, really excited to see the Broncos get a QB to see how good they really can be. He's really sold me on Denver. So now seeing Russell Wilson go there, I am so excited to see what this team does. And don't get me wrong, I am not a Broncos fan. I got no beef with them. I am still a Saints fan. I'm not going to be no, now I'm a Denver fan, blah, 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 blah. That's not my thing. But as a football fan, I am so excited to watch the AFC West. So you got Wilson, Mahomes, Herbert, and Derek Carr. Sorry, I just realized, I went 3 last names in a row and then just gave Derek his first name. I don't know why I did that. I don't think there's another quarterback with Carr as their last name, at least not currently. That was weird, but it is what it is, I guess. But it's man, we've got 4 really solid QBs, in this division. And apparently the Chargers thought so too, because then they went out and got Khalil Mack. And man, I feel so bad for Derek Carr. Khalil Mack, could you imagine, you have this phenomenal, generationally talented player on your team. Then he leaves because management's we don't really like him as much, or we don't think we can pay him, blah, blah, blah. So you lose, a fundamental core piece of your football team. Then a few years later, you guys get reunited on the gridiron, but he's on the other side of you. So instead of I know our defense has this really good player. I think it was his second or third year, Mac went to the Pro Bowl 2 different positions, which is some of the most insane shit I've ever heard. Phenomenal player. Just imagine being we got this guy. Okay, now we don't have this guy. That really sucks. Hey, he's back. I gotta face him. Twice a year. Thrice if we both go to the playoffs. Yickety yikes. I feel really bad for Derek Carr about that, man. Honestly, I feel bad for anyone who has to play against Khalil Mack, especially twice a year. What else has been going on in the QB carousel? We have Comrade Carson. So, the Washington Commanders, I think it's an okay name. When I saw all the different possibilities, all right, the Generals, okay, that sounds kind of cool. Admirals, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I loved Red Wolves. Red Wolves sounded awesome. I think it's Hogs was one, which is a reference to their offensive line back in the 90s that was just hauling ass. A lot of really cool names. Commanders felt underwhelming. It's fine. But then when I heard the memes about the Commanders being the commies, and then FedEx Field, the shithole that it is, being the gulag, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So now that they have Carson Wentz, who, Commander Carson doesn't sound too bad. Comrade Carson. Oh, that's perfect. Especially because one of their main colors is red. I mean, it's burgundy, but it's red. This is so funny. I love it. So, Carson Wentz really just kind of shat the bed in that last game of the season with the Colts. Had a chance to make the playoffs. You just had to beat the Jags, the worst team in the league, and they didn't do it. And like I said earlier, it's a team sport. It was not just Carson Wentz. You know, like the defense, which has been really good all year for the Colts, I think for the most part, gave up quite a few points to a team they really shouldn't have been. But also, the offense didn't do what it was supposed to. The Colts got rid of him. They don't have a quarterback. I mean, maybe they go with like one of their backups or something. But now the carousel keeps turning. Because just a little bit ago, before I sat down to record, we just got news that Deshaun Watson is not going to be facing any criminal charges for everything he was accused of. So it sounds like he's good to go, but he won it out of Houston. So I feel like Houston is going to want to trade him. Who's going to take Deshaun Watson? Like, the Colts need a quarterback, but they're in the same division. He's not getting traded to a division team. Denver just got their QB. They're good. The Dolphins are going all in on Tua, so I don't think he's going there. I know San Francisco is trying to move Jimmy G, but because they have Trey Lance, I don't think you would trade Jimmy G with the intention of starting Trey Lance just to get Deshaun Watson. Now, Seattle just got a good haul from Denver. I think it was like 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a couple players. Maybe they go for Deshaun Watson, but I don't think so. I feel like Seattle right now is going to try to rebuild, and I don't think going all... I don't know why you would go all in on a quarterback when you just had a good quarterback. It doesn't make sense to me. So where would he go? Part of me wants to say Atlanta, because I don't think Matt Ryan is going to be around that much longer in Atlanta. He is a good quarterback. I can say that as a Saints fan. Matt Ryan can sling a ball. But I do think a change of scenery would work well for him. Maybe he goes to Houston. Maybe, and then, the Falcons really try to go in on Deshaun Watson. They're like, hey, we got Kyle Pitts. You can throw to him. I mean, their receiving game, they don't have Julio anymore. Calvin Ridley's been suspended the year for gambling, so not a whole lot there. I think they have I don't remember the name of their other receivers or running backs. I really don't know much about the Falcons roster. I feel like I should as a Saints fan. I'm like, yeah, I don't care about the Falcons. Maybe Tampa, because they do have still a good team. They could maybe try to go all in on Deshaun to replace Brady. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Cleveland is going to make a big push to get Deshaun Watson. Great defense, great running back, or 2 running backs, so they have Chubb and Hunt. Solid receiving core from what I remember. Baker did not step up last year. Now, he was injured throughout a lot of the year. He was playing through injury, shows how much of a warrior he is. But he also was not playing well. It's entirely possible the team's like, you know what? He took us to the playoffs a couple seasons ago. He played well. This year he was injured. We're really not going to hold this year against him. It's also possible that they say, no, he did not play well. And if he was too injured to play well, he shouldn't have been playing, but he was playing anyways. Deshaun Watson's on the table. Let's go all in and get DW. That's my prediction. Like I said, I think Tampa could happen, and it'd be fun. I don't want it to happen. I'm a Saints fan. But football fan in me, that would be fun. Same with Atlanta. I am going to predict the Cleveland Browns try to go all in on Deshaun. I didn't pronounce the N. I think it said Deshaun or Deshaun. Deshaun Watson going to Cleveland. Oh, why didn't I think about Pittsburgh? Ben just retired. Great defense. I feel like Cleveland. I kind of like that in my head, but man, I don't know why I didn't think about Pittsburgh. Okay, I'll cheat. Deshaun Watson's going to the AFC North. Cleveland or Pittsburgh, whichever one. Well, that'll be my prediction for now. So those are my sports updates. Let's talk about some gaming updates. Sony had its State of Play a couple days ago. I watched it while I was going for a walk. I just wanted to briefly mention some of the things that kind of caught my attention. The first, I think it was called Exo Primal. It's a Capcom game about dinosaurs that isn't Dino Crisis. I remember the whole time watching it thinking, okay, this is Capcom and dinosaurs, so it's Dino Crisis, but this looks nothing like Dino Crisis. So, what is this? Okay, but it's still a game where you fight dinosaurs, so it looks cool. Forspoken is that one Square Enix game that's coming out in October. Looks awesome. It's like this parkour magic simulator where like you see the characters like sliding around and slinging spells, or like water bending, or like earth bending to like, make the ground lift her up into the air. Like, this looks cool. I don't really know if I'm describing it well. I don't think I am. I don't know how like the story is. I mean, obviously it hasn't come out yet. So I don't know if that's going to be something that's really interesting, but at least looking at it, it looks cool. I want to give it a shot. They showed off a Gundam game. It's called Gundam Evolution, I believe, which is an FPS, like 6v6 combat, but you're all playing as Gundams. On paper, that sounds amazing. Sign me up. But looking at that trailer, and I don't know if there's other trailers yet either, it looked kind of standard. Like, all I was really seeing was like, okay, that's like a submachine gun. Okay, now I think someone just switched to a sniper rifle. Okay, nothing in this trailer is making me look like I'm playing as a Gundam. You make this game seem like you are playing as a Gundam, I'm in. That sounds really fun. So it's something I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. I hope they're able to sell me on it. I don't feel like it'd be hard to sell me on it. Just make me feel like I'm playing as a giant robot, and I'm good. Lastly, about that, Square showed off a couple new games, neither of which were Final Fantasy VII Part 2. One just kind of looked like Fire Emblem, but I like Fire Emblem, so cool. The other is called Valkyrie Elysium, which apparently a friend of mine was telling me that it's like a sequel to an old game. But it looks like it's a third-person action game where you play as a beautiful woman and beat the shit out of things. Like I said, it's not easy to sell me on something. You've already got me hooked. Looks cool. Don't know if I will get it, but at the very least, it was something that caught my attention. Alright, so the only other current event that I want to talk about is a show update, because the new season of Survivor started. We started on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Sorry, that was kind of like a weird way to talk about the show. It's like I was trying to plug it or that I've been sponsored by it. I'm not. Would love to be sponsored by Survivor. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I have applied several times to get on Survivor. I applied for these newer seasons. Haven't heard back, unfortunately. But hopefully, like the next round of casting, I could do another application. I can get on. But so season 42 started. Not crazy about how it doesn't have a real name to it, the way that 41 didn't. But so far, I think it had a good first impression. The cast seems pretty likable so far. Everyone got... I saw a stat about this on Reddit. Everyone has at least 2 confessionals in the premiere, which is good. No one was rendered invisible. The amulet advantage, I think, is really interesting. I like the idea that on the one hand, okay, so you get these 3 things, they all have to be played at once, but each person is on a different tribe. So well, we can't really do anything unless we get swapped or at the merge, but if we do, it incentivizes cooperation. But you 3 people are the only ones that have them. And if you get voted out, it goes with you. And when it gets voted out, the remaining amulets get stronger. So on the one hand, it's like we can only play them together, so we need to work together. But also, okay, but if you guys are here, that means mine is weaker. So I'm going to try to get rid of you so that way mine gets strong. Like, I like that. Like, to me, that's really interesting. You can cooperate or you can backstab and both have some merit to them. I like that. I really wasn't crazy about a lot of the advantages last season. I know I recorded that in a piece of audio somewhere, so I'll probably release it at some point. Really was liking that. I think I had mentioned that the cast so far seems pretty likable. I was honestly really sad to see Jackson go. Zach, not so much. No disrespect to him. Like, he seemed like a likable dude. He took it like a champ when he got voted out. Love that. Respect that. But the Jackson situation was just sad. Like, he seemed like a really cool dude. His story really got to me. Like, I'm not a trans person. It's not something that I, identify with. I don't know if that's the right term. It's like, I have a friend who is transitioning. And, this is someone, I support her 1,000% in what she is going through. So, having someone on the show, someone who went through a transition successfully and is able to share their story, I like that. I like hearing about stuff like that. And the fact that he was removed from the game because he did not clearly report his medical conditions until it was too late, and that it sounds like when the team got a hold of it, he was on lithium, but he was taking himself off of it. He was no longer on it, and they're like, but the side effects of lithium, or maybe some of the withdrawals when you're not on lithium, we don't want to risk this. You should have told us this earlier. We let you get on, but we really shouldn't have. We have to pull you from the game. It just seemed like a really dicey situation, and I didn't want to see him go like that. I really didn't. But it is what it is. I am excited to see the season. I mean, I'm always excited for a new season of Survivor. Hopefully, it'll be great. But I have jabbered my jaw long enough. I'm going to take a bit of a break from talking, and instead, I'm going to give another opinion piece. So you will not get a break from me talking. You will go from me talking to more of me talking, but I'm going to, drink some water and rest my, almost said my lungs, but I mean, my lungs are probably doing work because I'm breathing and I have asthma. But more just like my throat for a bit. So the next piece, this is going to be about an anime called Little Witch Academia. Okay, so when I see that word, my brain goes demia, not demia. I'm probably wrong, but I've also been calling it that for years, so sorry, I don't care. So if you hear demia and it bothers you, apologies. You're going to be hearing it quite a bit coming up, but one of my favorite anime. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it. So I'm going to go for a bit, and I will leave you with my musings on Little Witch Academia. And for today's Jive, I wanted to try start a new series. Well, this is going to be called Favorite Scene, where, as the title suggests, I talk about my favorite scene from a work of fiction and why I think it works. And I could not think of a better choice for the inaugural episode than Little Witch Academia. Now, LWA is an anime that came out in 2017. It follows Atsuko Ako Kagari and her adventures learning magic at Luna Nova Academy. I love this series for its energy, its beautiful animation, the sweeping score, and just the warm, fuzzy feeling I get watching literally every single frame of it. And all of these elements are present in my favorite scene, which is the first scene of the show, Shiny Chariot's Magic Show. Now, for me, this scene works on 3 different levels. It works on the superficial level, just looking good. It works on a narrative level, and it also kind of connects with me on a very personal level. So let's get the easy one out of the way. It's a freaking magic show, and it's fun to watch. The show's main, like, musical theme is blaring in the background. Shiny Chariot is performing these cool tricks. Fairies are popping out of people's chests. She turns into a centaur. She's surfing on her broom, fighting a giant robot. The magic show is a ton of fun, and it really sets the standard for all of the fun things that you're gonna come to expect in the world of magic. Now, in addition to setting the standard for, how the show is gonna look, sound, and feel, it also does a really good job of foreshadowing. First, Akko isn't the only young girl that we see in attendance. Diana is in attendance as well, and we find out late into the show that she also used to be a big fan of Shiny Chariot, just like Akko. And one of the big reasons for their personality clash is that fandom is something that Diana had to grow out of and leave behind, and something that Akko never truly did. And which is a big reason for why, they just don't see eye to eye. Second, the metal monster that Chariot fights. On a first viewing of the scene, it seems like this is all part of Chariot's show. She does all these cool tricks, monster shows up, oh no, I gotta save the crowd from the giant monster. But, as we learn later, that metal monster is a tool used by the main antagonist of the show, and she's actually having a really important battle with it, and no one in the audience, both the audience in the show and the audience watching Little Witch Academia, have any idea about that. And the third bit of foreshadowing are the fairies that, like I said, fly out of people's chests while watching the show. Chariot reveals pretty late in the Little Witch Academia that part of her performance involved stealing magic from her audience. Now, it's been several years since I watched it, so I don't exactly remember what her motivation was for doing this, but I can tell you we see her stealing magic in that very first scene. The fairy that Akko sees, like, coming out of her body and, like, waving at her and such, is part of her magic being stolen right in front of her. And all the other little fairies you see in the audience, same thing for each other person. Now, one thing that did always kind of bug me looking back is it didn't really seem like it affected Diana that much that she got some of her magic stolen, but it is a real big deal for Akko. She's mocked mercilessly for her inability to fly on a broom, which is talk about it being the absolute most basic skill that anyone can have, but it was the very specific bit of magic that Chariot stole from her. It's part of my headcanon that another reason why Diana just kind of dislikes Akko so much in the early part of the show is that she did actually get some of her magic stolen, but because she was always willing to work hard and put her studies and her magic and her duty to her family above herself and her sense of fun, that's why she was able to excel in spite of, some of her magic being taken. And so seeing someone like Akko, who's frequently slacking off on her duties, getting in trouble, and just kind of doing her own thing regardless of the consequences, it makes sense why something like that would really get under her skin. I do remember watching the episode when Shiny Chariot reveals to Akko that she had been stealing magic, she had stolen magic from Akko, and that was the reason why she couldn't fly a broom. I remember feeling like I had just been punched in the gut and stabbed in the back at the same time. It was a betrayal, and it wasn't just a betrayal by Chariot for what she did, but I honestly felt like I was betrayed by the show itself for even going that route at all. I remember saying, I was like, no, you're not Madoka. You don't have to be Madoka. Why are you doing this to me? And I just immediately threw on the first episode and watched the first scene and then just took note of all of the bits of foreshadowing that I just described and realized, oh man, they got me. And I was impressed. Devastated, but impressed. Now, most scenes in LWA are great on that superficial level. And I know that there are some great scenes for the narrative of the show as well. But what sets the first scene apart as my absolute favorite is how it perfectly encapsulates my experience watching this series. I am Akko. Yo Yoshinari is Shiny Chariot. And all of Little Witch Academia is his magic show that I can't get enough of. I was enthralled with LWA from start to finish. And I can honestly say I loved all of it. It wasn't just good. It was honestly kind of inspiring, just like Akko. I wanted to be Shiny Chariot, someone who puts my heart and my soul into my craft and can make people happy with it. My biggest passion in the world is writing stories, writing novels. And if I'm writing and I don't feel my passion shining through, I don't feel like just my heart and soul bleeding into the characters and really making the world come to life, I feel like I fail as a writer. And watching this show where I do feel the love, the passion, the blood, sweat, and tears in every frame because of the energy, not just in the animation, but even in the music or in the voice acting, just everything came together just to make this great fucking experience. And I want to be able to do the same thing. And that, hypothetical audience, is why the first scene of Little Witch Academia is my favorite of the whole show. Curious to know, what are some of your favorite scenes from different series? Whether it's a TV show, live action, animated, a movie, a book, etc., etc. And if you have seen Little Witch Academia, what did you think of it? What are some of your favorite scenes from it? Let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to talk about this show. And there you have it, hypothetical audience. A life update, current events, and a couple opinion pieces as well. I feel like that makes this a solid and successful episode. But we're not quite done. There's still 2 more things I would like to do in every episode. First, Clay and I... What is that? Oh, sorry, there's I hear some kind of alarm thing. I don't know if... Is that a fire truck going by? I mean, my house isn't on fire. My house is fine. Sorry, there's a fire truck going by. I don't know if you guys heard the alarm. But, what was I saying? Yeah, couple things I want to do every week. One, Clay and I go to get Chinese every Wednesday. So what I would like to do is just share my fortune cookie for the week. Talk about what I got, if I can find any kind of meaning in it, or if I don't. So here we go. And I also just want to make the title of every episode the fortune cookie, which I guess in one way is kind of spoiling it, so maybe I won't do that every time. But at least for this one it will be. So, if you've read the title, you know that this week's fortune is, a clever crow will always paint its feathers black. Now, I'll be dead ass, I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if that's something about, a crow is already black, it painting itself black, it's taking care of its appearance, it's making sure that it is, the right level of its color, it's keeping itself sleek. Maybe it's supposed to be about, hey, if you're clever, you'll always be prepared. Even if your stuff looks normal, you'll take care of it, and I don't know. I don't really know what it means, but maybe you did find some meaning in it, and if you do, for sure, let me know. I would love to know what the heck that means. In addition to that, if you do have feedback, if you do have feedback about the opinion pieces or about the way the show is structured, if there's ways you think it can be genuinely improved, I would like to know, because I do want to make this as good as possible, not just for me, but also for anyone who wants to listen. Now, I did say there are a couple things I had to do before the end of the episode. Fortune cookie is one. The second is I have to say goodbye. And I can think of no better way to say goodbye than by singing the goodbye song from Bear in the Big Blue House. Why? One of my favorite shows growing up. I watched it religiously. And it is a simple song, but one that every time I hear it, it just fills me with so much nostalgia. And I just think it's perfect. And so again, in your feedback, if this is something that you think is dumb and I should never do again, feel free to let me know. But if you'll indulge me, hypothetical audience. Hey, this was really fun. We hope you liked it too. Seemed like it's just begun when suddenly we're through. Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. But now it's time to go. But hey, I say, well, that's okay, 'cause we'll see you very soon, I know. Very soon, I know. Goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. And tomorrow, just like today, the moon, the bear, and the big blue house will be waiting for you to come and play. To come and play. To come and play. Bye now.